"Don't be so dramatic," said my son-in-law when I suffered a heart attack after his Halloween prank. But when I returned from the hospital, the game was truly over. He believed he had the right to ridicule the old fool who funded his entire lifestyle. He yelled, and this time, it wasn't a mask. I transformed his existence into a living nightmare. Before we go on, please subscribe to the channel and comment below with the time it is in your location right now. The plastic skeleton hung from my hand, its jaw locked in an eternal smile. I'd been rummaging through storage bins in the garage, searching for the fog machine, when Brandon's voice pierced the thin wall dividing us from the backyard. "Yeah, the old fool covers all our expenses while I grow my business. Free rent, free meals, the complete package." I froze, unable to draw breath. The skeleton swung gently. "Best setup we've ever had. Buddy. Just have to tolerate him lurking nearby." His laughter, easy and relaxed, floated through the crisp October air. I stood motionless, the cardboard box edges digging into my palm, and sensed a shift deep in my chest. Not pain. Not quite yet. Just a stark realization. 5 years of so-called temporary hardships. 5 years of propping them up. And this was his remark when he thought I couldn't overhear. I compelled myself to keep moving. The decorations had to be set up. That was my Halloween tradition. That was the man I'd always been. The Texas sunset streaked the sky with hues of amber and violet as I hauled boxes to the front porch. My hands operated on autopilot, draping amber lights over the railing, placing carved pumpkins, setting up the fog machine. Each task felt robotic now, detached. Brandon's words echoed relentlessly in my mind. The old fool. I fastened artificial cobwebs to the doorframe and recalled doing this with Elizabeth. Her joy pure and heartfelt. She'd passed 3 years earlier. I decorated solo while the couple residing in my home. The home she and I had purchased together and paid off over 3 decades. Treated it like a complimentary inn. Twilight enveloped the suburb as I headed back to the garage for the last box, the animatronic witch that cackled on activation. The garage was dimly illuminated by a lone bulb, casting elongated shadows across the concrete. I stooped to grab the box. Behind me, a chainsaw motor roared suddenly to life. The noise detonated in the enclosed area. Overwhelming. A silhouette burst from the darkness. Hideous terror mask. Chainsaw hoisted high, shrieking. My heart clenched. Literally this time. Agony burst in my chest like a clamp squeezing tighter, pulverizing, spreading down my left arm. I staggered backward. The box tumbled to the floor. My hand clutched at my chest. I couldn't inhale, couldn't utter a word. The torment erased all else. Brandon yanked off the mask, smirking. The chainsaw, I noticed now, lacked a blade, just the racket humming in his grip. "Come on, George, don't be so theatrical. It's merely Halloween mischief." I struggled to shape words. My voice emerged as a wheeze. "Call an ambulance." My sight blurred at the borders. My legs buckled beneath me. I collapsed to my knees, one hand still clamped to my chest where the fire pulsed outward. Brandon's smirk twisted into irritation. "You're okay. Quit exaggerating." Footsteps approached. Emily appeared in the doorway, silhouetted by the house lights. She spotted me on my knees, gasping for air. "Brandon, what did you do?" "Nothing. He got spooked. He's fine, just craving attention." My hand trembled as I groped for my phone in my pocket. My fingers felt numb, awkward. I finally extracted it. stared at the display until it registered. Dialed 911. Brandon observed with arms folded. Emily lingered frozen in the doorway, hesitant. The dispatcher's voice filtered through, faint and remote. 911. What's your emergency? I pushed the words past the compressing pressure in my chest. Heart attack. Sir, can you detail your symptoms? Chest crushing. Left arm numb. Can't breathe. An ambulance is en route. Stay connected with me. 8 minutes away. I lowered myself to the chilly garage floor. Phone pressed to my ear. The dispatcher posed questions. My age, prescriptions. What triggered it, I replied in short bursts. Brandon had withdrawn into the house. Emily knelt beside me now, but her touch on my shoulder felt insubstantial, hollow. Dad, you'll pull through. You probably just panicked. I gazed at her, my daughter, and perceived a total stranger. The agony in my chest was corporeal, excruciating. The deeper ache was far worse. The dispatcher's steady voice coached me through the burden. Remain still, keep breathing, assistance is near, in the distance. I caught Brandon's voice from within the house, nonchalant, perhaps chuckling at a TV program. Emily stayed kneeling by me, one hand on my shoulder, a motion that seemed more staged than sincere. 4 minutes out now, sir. I shut my eyes. The pain surged through my frame in pulses. But underneath, a notion crystallized, icy and precise as glacial melt. They're not going to assist me. I'm handling this solo. The wail intensified, then halted. Crimson and azure lights pulsed against the garage walls, tinting everything in frantic shades. Paramedics surged in with gear, all briskness and intent. They fired queries rapidly. My age, meds, what occurred? Chest pain, I rasped, started abruptly. Self-initiated the call. One paramedic glanced toward the glowing house windows. Family present, we can transport one in the ambulance. I gestured to the doorway where Brandon and Emily remained. Observing, the paramedic vanished momentarily, re-emerged with the impassive look that conveyed all. They stated they'll visit the hospital tomorrow, unable to accompany us currently. The statement struck like pebbles in calm waters. They're not coming. That's their message, sir. We must depart immediately. They hoisted me onto the gurney, rolled me beyond the Halloween adornments I'd installed an hour prior, through the haze of pain and oxygen mask. I viewed Brandon and Emily in the doorway, stationary, unmoving. The ambulance doors sealed, severing them from sight. Baylor University Medical Center's emergency department gleamed harsh, frigid, pressing. Physicians and nurses encircled me. IV tubes, EKG patches, blood pressure sleeve constricting periodically. Doctor, Reynolds, a lady in her 50s with deft hands and composed gaze, scanned the monitors. Her countenance grave. Mr. Harrington, you've endured an acute myocardial infarction, a grave heart attack. We must rush you to the cath lab to insert stents and reinstate blood flow to your heart. Time is vital. Do you comprehend? I nodded beneath the oxygen mask. Will I survive? We're committed to your care, but we proceed now. The ceiling panels smeared as they transported me along corridors. The terminology flooded over me. Obstructed vessels, stent insertion, cardiac catheterization. This is dire, I reflected. This might end me. And they opted to stay home. The cath lab was pristine, hushed, save for beeping devices. Doctor, Reynolds outlined they were placing stents to clear my clogged arteries. I stayed conscious yet sedated, observing the operation on a monitor I couldn't decipher. 2 stents. The strain in my chest lessened marginally. "You're fortunate, Doctor," Reynolds noted. "You summoned help swiftly. Another 15 minutes." She trailed off. Unnecessary to elaborate. Fortunate I'd alerted myself. Rescued myself. Since the residents of my home couldn't muster the effort, the intensive care unit hushed at night. Merely the orchestra of monitors and respirators droning nearby. I reclined in the hospital bed, cables tethering me to apparatus monitoring each pulse. 4 days blurred in a fog of drugs and checkups. Emily visited once on the 3rd day. Lingered 12 minutes. Dad. Goodness. This facility is tough to locate, and parking is awful. I've been terribly concerned. I observed her thumbing her phone as she spoke. "You visited once," I murmured softly. "It's a lengthy commute, and Brandon required the vehicle for his appointments. You get it." She glanced at her phone's clock. "I ought to leave shortly. Rush hour looms." She departed. Vowed to return. Never did. Brandon never showed. Not even once. Nurses entered and exited. Compassionate unknowns offering more support than my kin. On the 4th evening, a nurse called Laura adjusted my IV. She was elderly with tender touch and weary eyes. She eyed the vacant chair by my bed. "Darling, where's your kin? You ought not be isolated post such an ordeal. Most folks have company non-stop." I remained mute for an extended beat. "They're occupied." Laura's features gentled. "I understand." After she exited, I lay amid the gloom, sleep elusive despite fatigue. Her query reverberated in my thoughts. "Where's your family?" I commenced reckoning 5 years. They'd relocated in when Brandon's venture collapsed. Short term, they'd assured, until we stabilize. My house, the one Elizabeth and I acquired jointly, cleared 15 years back, morphed into their gratis shelter. Rental rates in Dallas for a property like mine, $3,000 monthly, multiplied by 60 months, $180,000. Utilities, $450 per month, $27,000. Provisions, coverage, fixes to the roof last year, the fresh furnace. I footed every bill. The figure solidified in my mind. $175,000. 5 years of aid. And amid my cardiac arrest, they lounged at home, tuned to broadcasts. My fingers drummed the hospital sheet, recalculating, confirming. The figures rang true. "Where's your family?" The response shaped, chill and definitive. "They're not any longer." I breathed it to myself in the shadows. 5 years. 175,000. Pause. And they remained home. Extended pause. "Where's your family?" My hand balled loosely on the sheet. "I'm through. I'm finished being exploited." Beyond my door, the facility pulsed its nocturnal cadence. Faint chatter, squeaking carts, the sporadic alert from adjacent rooms. My phone rested on the nightstand. Display dim. "Tomorrow. Doctor," Reynolds mentioned. "We'd review release protocols. Tomorrow. I'd require transport home. A driver. I already knew who wouldn't offer." My hand lay on the sheet, digits tapping a deliberate beat. Not anxious, but computing. The sums cycled in my head. 175,000. 5 years. 1 visit. Nil outreach. The tapping ceased. My hand fisted gently. Outside, the Dallas night loomed black. Yet dawn neared, and with it, alterations. A week post-heart attack. "Doctor." Reynolds approved my discharge. I perched on the bed's edge, clad in garments left at the nurse's desk yesterday. Not hand-delivered. merely deposited like baggage. Total repose for minimum 2 weeks. Doctor, Reynolds instructed. Passing a hefty dossier. No vigorous exertion. Ingest these remedies precisely as directed. Shun tension. Your heart demands recovery. Follow-up set for 14 days hence. Do you have aid at home? I hesitated. Yes, I'll cope. The wheelchair escort to the exit was protocol. At the sliding portals, no kin vehicle awaited. I retrieved my phone. Summoned a cab. The cabbie aided my entry to the rear with the dossier and modest sack. More courtesy than my relatives displayed. As we departed Baylor University Medical Center, I watched the edifice shrink in the side view. I'd endured alone. The cab entered my district 25 minutes later. Known lanes bordered by arid grounds and shingled roofs. My residence emerged and something constricted in my chest. Not cardiac twinge, but awareness. The Halloween trimmings I'd erected pre the upheaval drooped there, forlorn in the November sun. The cabbie assisted me to the entrance with my sack. I compensated, tipped generously, saw him off. Then I lingered on my veranda, key in grasp, inhaled deeply, unlocked the door. The odor assaulted first. Rancid cuisine, soiled utensils, a tangy rot from the scullery. The den was disarray. Pizza cartons piled on the low table, ale containers arrayed on the side, grimy dishes strewn over planes. The set blared a midday program. Brandon lounged on my sofa. Emily occupied the wing chair. Both fixated on the display. Neither pivoted. Brandon's tone rang dull, gaze fixed on the tube. "Oh, you're returned. We figured you'd linger longer." Not a warm reception. Not "how do you fare," merely astonishment at my re-entry to my domicile. "You ought to have phoned," Emily appended, peeking over. "We weren't anticipating you presently." I stood in the threshold, sack clutched. I was released. "This is my abode." Brandon shrugged. "Yeah, obviously." I bore my sack beyond them along the passage to my chamber, unpacked leisurely, donned easeful attire. The abode felt alien, inhabited by unknowns resembling once familiar souls. Dusk fell. I prepared modest fare in the disordered kitchen, broth and bread, adhering to Dr. Reynolds' diet mandates. I cleared sufficient surface to prepare, ringed by their clutter. Brandon and Emily surfaced upon scenting sustenance, portioned themselves unbidden, bore dishes to the board. I accompanied with my repast, navigating cautiously, still delicate. Quiet expanded amid mouthfuls. Then Emily voiced, her inflection contrived buoyant, nearly gleeful. "Dad, truthfully, it was serene sans you here. No slight, but you perpetually loiter, scrutinizing our every move. We could at last unwind." My ladle halted midway to lips. "I was hospitalized," I stated softly. "I realize. Yet still." She grew combative. "You must concede you're overwhelming at times." Brandon reclined in his seat, concurring. "Yeah, pal. Ease up and grant us room. This is our residence too. You behave as if we're visitors." I placed my ladle down meticulously, regarded it abutting the basin's rim. "This is your residence too," I echoed. "Precisely." Brandon motioned with his prong, "So cease deeming us intruders." I lifted my gaze, locked with his, then Emily's. My offspring, my sole progeny, unknowns donning acquainted visages. "I grasp now," I declared after prolonged silence. Utterly, neither detected the subtext. They resumed dining, debating a show they'd viewed while I battled mortality and critical care. Deep into the night, the house hushed at last. I ensconced in my office and secured the portal. This compact chamber sensed like refuge, the sole area they hadn't overrun. I accessed the archive drawer, withdrew dossiers untouched in months, years. The land title, my name solely, acquired 32 years prior with Elizabeth, my departed spouse, settled 18 years ago, unencumbered ownership, my testament, composed post her demise, concise paper bequeathing all to Emily. I contemplated it. The lady who lately claimed my nearness discomfited her. Account ledgers, annuity inflows, retirement checks, reserve fund amassed across 40 years of prudent husbandry, health dossiers from the facility, acute myocardial infarction, elevated peril occurrence, subject summoned 911 independently. That element was recorded. I sorted the sheets into tidy piles. The ex-educator assembling proof, launched my notebook, probed Texas landlord-tenant statutes, inscribed my pad with points, protocols, stipulations, entitlements. Nearing 2A, BIM. I reclined in my seat. The scheme wasn't wholly shaped yet, but the base existed. Methodical, lawful, unalterable. I rose, extended gingerly, still mending, still bodily frail, yet not spiritually. Traversed to the office pane, peered at the shadowed avenue, adjacent dwellings aglow with cozy beams, ordinary clans, viable bonds. I'd devoted 35 years as a school headmaster, managing dilemmas, imposing edicts, safeguarding the establishment. I comprehended how mechanisms functioned. Records counted. Judicial courses duly pursued proved inexorable. After me on the bureau, the files lingered, the title bearing my name, the health logs evidencing neglect, the bequest demanding amendment, the inquiry on ouster methods. I pressed one palm level to the chilled pane. Outward, a vehicle motored past. Existence persisted. Mine ought too. But initially, I required reclamation. Tomorrow, I'd initiate contacts. Tonight, I concluded victimhood. My image in the obscured glass revealed novelty in my mien, not fury. That burned too fiercely, too fleetingly. This chilled deeper, more enduring. I reactivated my notebook, inputted the quest line. Estate Council, Dallas, Texas, the display luminous, outcomes surfaced. I perused endorsements, jotted annotations. Dawn lingered hours off, but I toiled already. 4 days on, I positioned in my auto exterior a trade edifice in Midtown Dallas. The excursion spanned 40 minutes. My premier drive since the cardiac episode. My grips held firm on the helm. Per doctor, Reynolds' sanction for mild motion. I'd located Sarah Thompson via the facility's aid roster, then authenticated her qualifications digitally. Legacy orchestration expert. 26 years tenure. Commendations from patrons in akin plights. Charge, $400 per hour. 110-minute session. I telephoned yesterday. Secured a slot today. The dossier of files sat on the foreseat. Identical sheets I'd collated that eve in my office. I consulted my timepiece. 10 minutes premature. Fine. Occasion to steady. This concerned not sentiment. This regarded tactics. I grasped the dossier, vacated the auto, strode to the ingress. Sarah Thompson's suite claimed the 5th level, elegantly appointed. Juridical tomes shelved one barrier, credentials and attestations another. She spanned mid-50s, keen-sighted, attired in slate attire, proffered her grasp solidly. Mr. Harrington, gratitude for arriving. Relate what occasions your presence. I seated opposite her desk, unveiled my dossier. My timbre emerged even, empirical, the pitch I'd employed 35 years, confronting guardians, directorates, overseer evaluations. No theatrics, solely verities. I require excising my daughter and her spouse from my estate. They've dwelt there 5 years sans lease payment. 2 weeks passed. My son-in-law's conduct incited a heart attack. Neither tended me adequately in the clinic. I desire them expelled. and I seek to revise my bequest, Sarah inscribed. Attending. I proffered sheets across her desk as I narrated. Land title foremost, then health logs, fiscal records displaying the monetary backing I'd supplied. Upon concluding, she leaned aft, lifted the land title, scrutinized it. Mr. Harrington, juridically, their occupants in your dwelling, lease or none. Texas code proves explicit herein. She swiveled her terminal so I viewed. Summoned Texas statutes. You'll execute exact ouster protocol. 30-day termination first. Then judicial submission if warranted. The crux is flawless logging. No deviations, all per code. Can you pledge that I helmed a school 35 years? I stated. I fathom protocols. I'll adhere each regulation. She inclined. Outputted replicas of pertinent codes. Appended to my dossier. Delineated the span. 30-day quit mandate. No rationale needed for periodic occupancy. Should they linger, I'd lodge an unlawful retainer suit in district court. Audience within 4 weeks. Upon prevailing, and I would, per unclouded possession, the bench would decree a restitution writ. Bailiff enacts clearance. Aggregate span, she noted. 70 to 100 days from initial mandate. I assimilated. 2 to 3 months. Beyond my ideal, yet tolerable if assured. Sarah initiated a secondary archive on her terminal. Now, anent your bequest in Texas. You possess absolute liberty, relegatees. You're unbound to bestow aught to grown issue. She paused, appraised my visage. Are you resolute on this shift? It's a weighty choice. Once your daughter discerns it, your tie may shatter irreparably. When I endured a heart attack, I affirmed steadily. She deemed my void serene, that I intrude excessively. The tie fractures already. I'm merely ratifying actuality. Sarah inclined gradually. Then we'll render it juridically impregnable. You might allocate nominal sum to your daughter, customarily $1, to evince she wasn't omitted. That fortifies the bequest against disputes. She expounded the course: compose, critique, alterations, authentication, dual attesters, span, 3 weeks for fulfillment. She could additionally draft an advance directive and medical proxy given my fresh ailment. Aggregate outlays, she noted. $3,500 for both the ouster mandate drafting and the full bequest overhaul suite. I unpaused not. Drew my check ledger from my coat pouch. Conveyed expressly for this. Inscribed the draft. My reserve fund, forged over 40 years. Held ample. Sarah received the draft. Furnished a voucher. The mandate readies Tuesday. You must tender it to each individually. Convey it forthwith to every party. Log the date and hour you tender. Snapshot feasible. Then await precisely 30 days ere further steps. I comprehend. 30 days. Log all. She arose, proffered her grasp anew. Mr. Harrington, for whatever merit you're pursuing rightly, at times can merit their station. At times they forfeit it. I clasped her grasp. Inclined once. Proceeded to the portal. In the lot beneath. I seated in my autosans, igniting the motor. The dossier lay on my lap, through the foreglass. Downtown Dallas ascended in angular motifs, structures, lanes, frameworks. All in this metropolis operated on ordinances, sanctions, regulations, codes. I navigated that realm. Sarah Thompson would ready the sheets. I'd tender the mandate. The framework would enact the residue. It wasn't vengeance. Vengeance proved sentimental, disordered, undependable. This constituted equity, procedural, archived, irrevocable. I kindled the motor, eased from the slot, commenced the return to Highland Park, to the abode juridically mine. That would anon verily mine. In 4 days. I'd hold the ouster mandate. In 3 weeks. the fresh bequest. The chronology fixed, the scheme propelled. For the premiere since Halloween Eve, something in my chest slackened. Not the cardiac ache, but the load of impotence. I proved no longer impotent. My egress loomed on the expressway. I signaled, veered starboard, ascended the incline toward domicile. Acquainted lanes materialized. My enclave, the abode with drooping Halloween finery I hadn't dismantled. I nosed into the carport. Brandon's auto rested there. Jobless Brandon, who idled homeward all daylight in my abode, subsisting on my annuity hoard. I quenched the motor, grasped the dossier, paused gazing at the foreportal. In 4 days, I'd traverse that portal with a juridical script. All would alter then, but not yet. For now, I'd retreat to my office, bolt the portal, abide. The dossier sensed substantial in my holds, tangible, executable. I unlatched the auto portal, alighted into the Texas midday swelter, advanced toward my abode, bearing the onus of ensuing. 3 days elapsed in meticulous regimen, remedies at exact intervals, brief strolls encircling the enclave, heart-mending drills. I sequestered in my office most spans portal bolted, evading Brandon and Emily, save imperative brushes in the scullery. They marked my seclusion, misconstrued it as yielding, as ratification of the quo. Tuesday afternoon, my phone toned. Dispatch from Sarah Thompson, sheets primed for retrieval. I motored to her suite, endorsed validation forms, obtained 2 sealed missives, one for Brandon, one for Emily. Sarah guided me through tender stipulations once more. Convey each their mandate personally. Log date and hour. Snapshot if viable. This initiates the 30-day timer. I inclined, slotted the missives in my dossier, motored homeward. Wednesday morn. Today, I roused at 5:30, bathed, attired meticulously, trousers and collared blouse, as prepping for a directorate assembly. Solemn events demanded apt display. Brewed Java. Supped alone in the scullery while the abode slumbered. Nigh 10, stirrings aloft. Brandon and Emily rousing. I perched at the board. The dual missives afore awaited. Brandon materialized initial, shambling to the scullery in lounge pants and faded tee. Morning, he grumbled, evading gaze, my timbre calm. Commanding, Brandon, Emily, I require you both in the board now. Something in my pitch halted him. What's the matter? Simply attend. Fetch Emily, 7 minutes on. They stationed pre-me. Brandon wary, Emily uneasy. I stayed seated, lifted the premier missive. This for you. Brandon, proffered across the board. And this for you. Emily. Brandon seized his missive, scowling. Emily's hold quivered faintly as she took hers. What's this? Unveil them. Brandon rent his open premiere, extracted the formal script. His optics swept the cap. 30-day quit premises edict. His countenance morphed. Bewilderment, then insight, then wrath. What the hell? You can't evict us. This is absurd. His pitch escalated to bellow. Emily perused hers languidly. Lacrimation already welling. Dad, I'm your progeny. How can you inflict this on me, on us? My holds lay flat on the board. Timbre level. This my abode. I've sustained you 5 years. You demonstrated I'm mere encumbrance. When I lay in clinic post-heart attack, you couldn't rouse to tend adequately. You deemed my void serene. Time to secure your own quarters. Brandon pounded the sheet down. We'll contest this. You can't hurl us curbside. I motioned to the edict. Peruse meticulously. It's wholly lawful. Drafted by counsel. You hold 30 days from today. That's January 10th. I counsel initiating lodging quests. The balance of Wednesday devolved to turmoil. Emily wept, implored, essayed every sentimental tack. We lack quarters to relocate. Chill descends. We can't afford lease. You've savored 5 years gratis lodging. I noted. You should have amassed reserves. Brandon strode the den, phone to ear, dialing all acquaintances. By Eve, he'd consulted a gratis digital juridical aid, conferred 25 minutes, disconnected, appearing crestfallen. What did they convey? Emily queried desperately. Brandon's mandible tightened. Stated the edict appears valid, lacking pact and payment. He may enact this. Verity implanting. Thursday yielded fresh ploy from Emily. Mother would scorn you, expelling your own progeny, your own blood. I encountered her optics icily. Your dam would scorn your maltreatment of me, your tolerance of your spouse's derision, your desertion in clinic. Shun feigning her sentiments. Emily flinched as struck. The abode transmuted to frigid conflict terrain. Brandon and Emily ceased discourse with me save irate flares. Repasts segregated. The set droned tardily into night, amplitude intentionally amplified. Minor rebellions. I chronicled all. Din grades, spans, conducts. My ledger brimmed with logs. Friday. Brandon impeded my auto in the carport 4 hours air shifting. Saturday. Emily inadvertently discarded countertop post. Trivial vexations. Probing limits. I countered by fitting a bolt to my chamber portal. Twin to the office one. Stowed vital sheets in my auto boot. Now. Sunday Eve. 6 days post tendering the edict. I ensconced in my office, assaying my almanac. 24 days to limit. Should they decline departure? And I surmised they would. Sarah would lodge the unlawful retainer suit. Bench audience 4 weeks thence. March pre-conclusion. Likely. I'd mastered forbearance across eras in pedagogy. I could endure. A rap on my office portal drew my gaze. Dad. May we converse Emily's timbre, diminutive, provisional. I fixed on the sealed portal. Peruse the edict. 30 days. That's discourse sufficed. Dad, entreat. 24 days now. I counsel commencing packing. Footfalls withdrawing. I resumed my almanac. Notching another span. 10 days post-tendering. The outreaches commenced. Monday afternoon. My mobile trilled. Cousin Laura from Austin. Timbre taut with worry. George, I just received word from Emily. She claims you're ousting her. Your own progeny. I sustained my timbre impartial. That's accurate. But why she alleges you're casting them forth sans cause. Sans forewarning. I discerned Emily's tale in each syllable. Laura, I've sheltered them lease-free 5 years. When I suffered heart attack, they tended scantily. I tendered 30 days lawful edict. That's my sole debt to any quietude. That appears severe. George, perhaps it's also my juridical prerogative. She terminated abruptly. The secondary outreach arrived an hour on. My nephew David, identical narrative, variant timbre. Emily had busied messaging kin afar, depicting herself victim. I kept retorts concise, empirical, declining justification. By dusk, my mobile displayed 7 outreaches, 5 messages. I hearkened none. They proved irrelevant. This wasn't a claim contest. It was a state affair ruled by code, not kin sentiment. 4 days on, Sunday morn. I unearthed the impairment. I'd ventured for my heart-mending session. 90 minutes supervised exertion and oversight. Returned home circa noon to discern my office portal agape. The bolt fixture dangling slack. Fasteners wrenched from the jam. My pulse surged. Not cardiac woe, but ire reigned meticulously. I advanced inward. Archive still bolted. Bureau drawers untouched, notebook shut as I'd departed. But the portal, the emblematic barrier, breached. Brandon occupied the den, feet on low table, viewing the tube. Brandon. My office portal bolt fractured. He shunned the display. That's odd. Likely feeble or such. It functioned this morn when I quitted for session. Perhaps it yielded aged abode, aged fittings. Such occurs. The offhand deceit, the willful slight. I drew my phone, snapped images of the marred bolt, the wrenched fasteners, the jam. Then I strode beyond him, fetched my keys, motored to nearest sheriff outpost. Deputy Harlan, late 40s, adept bearing, accepted the log. Your lodging for asset impairment affirmative, and I desire it archived. I've tendered them ouster edict. This retaliation, he inscribed, allotted a docket numeral, asset impairment, dwelling, approximated mend outlay, 200 for Smith. But I'm more vexed by conduct pattern. They hold 19 days on edict. I foresee further episodes. Harlan lifted from his script. You foresee intensification I'm bracing. He inclined gradually. Prudent, sustained chronicling. Images, spans, depictions. Should it persist, you'll hold proof for ouster audience. I departed with sheriff log numeral, halted at ironmongery, procured fresh mortise and petite cordless sentinel cam, the variant archiving to ether vault. By dusk, the fresh bolt fitted, cam affixed discreetly on shelf, canted to span office portal and bureau. I essayed from phone, crisp vista, motion-triggered archive, primed, the ensuing Friday, November 25th, 14 days pre-limit. I roused to murmurs. My chamber chronometer displayed 1:45 a.m. Masculine murmurs, plural from below stairs, mirth, melody, glass tinkling. I arose soundlessly, donned garb, slunk to stair crest. The den beams blazed. Brandon perched in wing chair, brew in hold, discoursing with 4 males I'd unseen. Burly males, rugged aspect, splayed on my seats. Additional brew flagons on low table. The tube aired some thriller at peak amplitude. One outsider noted me on stairs. Hey, that's the elder. Brandon pivoted, elevated his brew in feigned homage. Yeah, that's him. Fret not. He's innocuous. I descended measuredly. Brandon, nigh 2 a.m. Who these allies of mine? We're merely convening, unwind. In my abode at 2 a.m. on Friday night. One of the outsiders, inked limbs, belligerent optics, inclined forth. You issue I gauged the scene. 4 hefty males, perchance adversarial. Knight's core. I extracted my phone, initiated video archive. I'm logging this. You're intruding. All vacate now. Brandon arose, ire traversing his countenance. Stow that phone. These my invitees, this my home. I sustained archiving. Timber serene, this my holding. They're off-packed as you lack packed. They're intruding. You hold 8 seconds to bid them depart or I alert sheriff. 765. My digit poised o'er crisis dial. The inked male surged, advanced a pace toward me. Perhaps you revert to pallet. Elder. I retreated not. 4-3. Something in my immobility, my utter fearlessness, halted him. Brandon laid palm on the male's shoulder. Drop it, not worthwhile. To his allies, come. Let's adjourn to my van. We'll conclude there, grumbling, collecting brew flagons. The 4 males queued out. Brandon trailed, cast me a toxic glare. This concludes not. 16 days, I retorted softly. Then you're absent regardless preference. The 4 portal banged. I halted archiving, preserved the clip, verified timestamp, duplicated to Ether Vault forthwith. Then I perched at board and unveiled my notebook. Forged fresh script, tenancy breach addict, visitor code breach. Inscribed the episode. Date, span, somatic depictions. Brandon's concession. They his allies. Intrusion on holding. Outputted dual replicas. One for archives. One to tender Brandon mornward. By 3:30 a.m., I reclined in pallet. Fresh bolt firm on portal. Phone on nightstand. Charged full. Morrow I'd tender the breach edict. Append to burgeoning archive. They deemed they could daunt me, compel retreat. They fathomed not. I'd devoted 35 years contending irksome guardians, antagonistic directorates, labor disputes. I knew outlasting foes, adhering protocols till protocols triumphed. 16 days to limit. Should they abstain voluntary egress, bench would compel. And each episode this eve, each fractured bolt, each 2 a.m. assembly, all fortified my stance. I sealed optics, slumbered deeply, for I prevailed gradually, methodically, yet prevailed. January 10th dawned. The limit, I roused betimes. Inspected each chamber, Brandon and Emily's chamber portal sealed, their effects lingering. Autos in carport. They'd not departed, not packed, not evinced relocation endeavor. I'd foreseen this. Yet confirmation bore chill gratification. I motored to Sarah Thompson's suite downtown, bearing my dossier, now plump with logs. Primal edict. Sheriff log refractured bolt. Sentinel cam footage etched to disk. Penned tenancy breach edict. Impairment images. My exhaustive ledger. Sarah assayed all methodically. They abstained clearance. We lodged today. She'd prepped the forcible retainer litigation, Texas's formal ouster suit. I endorsed the grievance. Inscribed draft for $250 docket outlay. Sarah dispatched it digitally to Dallas County District Court pre-noon. Bench audience slated post-festivities. She elucidated. Likely early February. You'll get date notification. I inclined. The juridical apparatus activated. Now ensued further abidance. The spans tween lodging and audience tautened, odd, and strained. Brandon's provocations amplified, obstructing my passages in corridors, forsaking disarray in communal zones, airing melody deliberately amplified during my office spans, probing bounds, courting response. I chronicled all, upheld glacial quiet, denied interchange. Days pre-New Year. Emily essayed sentimental plea anew, ambushing me in scullery. It's Yuletide. Dad, you're rending our clan. Can't we truce? At least via holidays. Her timbre bore despair beneath contrived saccharinity. I lowered my Java mug meticulously. You rent this clan when you forsook me solo mid-heart attack. When you deemed my void serene. Yuletide alters not verities. She flinched as smitten. New Year's Eve materialized. I passed it isolated in chamber, portal bolted, while Brandon and Emily hosted revel in den. Amplified melody, mirth, ally voices invited, a flaunted rebellion. I summoned Italian fair conveyance, supped in chamber, viewed film on notebook with earpieces, unperturbed. They might claim their revel. I held the bench date, February 5th, 4 weeks post-litigation. I attired in lounge suit, the variant I'd donned to directorate assemblies decades. Deep indigo, starched ivory blouse, temperate cravat, adept display signified. Sarah encountered me at Dallas County District Court structure downtown, a squat masonry holding minor claims and ouster proceedings. We perched in Corridor San's courtroom assaying tactics. Permit me chief discourse, Sarah counseled. Retort bench queries directly, succinctly, empirically. No sentiment. I inclined. I'd attested afore. Fiscal audits. Staff phrase. Directorate probes. I fathomed tribunal etiquette. Brandon and Emily arrived 8 minutes pre-audience. No counsel. Brandon in denims and creased blouse. Emily in offhand garb. Both unprepared. They perched cross-corridor. Brandon glowering. Emily floor-gazing. The usher summoned Harrington versus Brandon and Emily Harrington. We queued into the compact courtroom. The bench, a dame in 60s. Keen optics. No frills bearing. Elevated aft podium. This forcible retainer suit. Mr. Harrington by advocate. Respondents self-advocating. She essayed case systematically. Land title evincing sole possession. The 30-day edict duly tendered. November 10th. Tender proof. My attestation reconveying each respondent their edict personally. The January 10th limit elapsed sans clearance. Sheriff log chronicling asset impairment. Sentinel cam footage of office portal breach images. Penned logs of tenancy breaches. The bench essayed each display. Queried clarifications. Mr. Harrington. Held respondents penned packed nay. Your Honor. Did they remit lease nay? Your Honor. How long dwelt they in your holding 5 years? Your Honor. And you tendered apt edict November 10th, granting till January 10th clearance. Accurate, Your Honor. I conveyed each respondent their edict personally. The bench pivoted to Brandon and Emily. Dispute ye any verities, dispute ye edict receipt. Non-clearance. Packed absence, Brandon commenced discourse. Pitch ascending. He can't simply. The bench severed him. Retort the query. Brandon sagged. Nay, but then ye hold no juridical bulwark. This periodic tenancy cessation. Apt edict tendered. Ye failed adherence. She assayed the sheriff log remarred bolt. Asset impairment amid edict span. That's disquieting. She eyed Brandon. Sir, this aids not your stance. Mr. Harrington proved overly bountiful. 5 years gratis shelter. Ye countered lawful ouster edict with asset impairment and rebellion. She grasped her quill. Inscribed annotations. I decree plaintiff's suit granted. 8-day restitution writ. Respondents must clear holding in 8 days from today. That's February 13th. Fail clearance. Dallas County bailiff enforces removal and curbs your effects. Tribunal outlays to plaintiff. The mallet fell. Ultimate. Binding. Sarah inclined nigh. Ideal result. 8 days. Sans egress by 13th. We petition execution writ. I arose. Gathered my dossier. Crossed courtroom. Emily wept subdued. Brandon rigid. Fists balled. They'd forfeited. The juridical code spake. I trailed Sarah to corridor, sensing naught save serene ratification. Equity. Procedural. Formal. We advanced to egress. Winter beams streaming through courthouse panes. 8 days. Sarah noted as we attained chief portals. Sans egress by 13th. We petition execution writ. The bailiff manages corporeal clearance. I inclined. Thrust through ponderous portal into February breeze. One further item I require finalizing. I noted. Sarah glimpsed me. The bequest overhaul, affirmative. How swift completion. She consulted her phone almanac. Compose readies. We schedule endorsement and authentication this week. Monday suit. Monday ideal. We attained fork where paths parted. Clasped holds. Felicitations. Mr. Harrington. The arduous concludes. I unbent not. Nigh, yet not wholly. I pivoted toward lot. Dossier under limb. The February sun balmy on shoulders. 8 days till their void and bequest to seal pre they discern further forfeiture. Monday, February 3rd, 3 days post-audience, I reseated in Sarah Thompson's suite. This instance for bequest endorsement right. The script sprawled pre-me, output on dense juridical vellum, each proviso exactly phrased. Sarah essayed it clause by clause. Chief legatees, American Heart Association, 250,000, local academy endowment, the zone where I'd tenured my vocation, 210,000, residual effects consigned to philanthropic faith for learning grants. Emily garnered precisely one with phrasing to affirm she not omitted. Sarah prepped dual attestator endorsements, her aide and suite steward, neither tied to me or kin. The authenticator awaited. This impregnable, Sarah affirmed. Texas binds not you to bestow aught to grown progeny. The token dollar thwarts disputes on omitted scions. Once endorsed, authenticated, and archived with my suite. It's juridically obligatory. I lifted the quill, endorsed my name on allotted line, attested, authenticated, sealed, fulfilled. Wednesday afternoon, February 5th, 4 days to ouster limit. The abode subsisted in taut stasis. Brandon and Emily at last boxing, relocating sluggishly, as if deferral might warp verity. I lingered in office, portal unbarred now as sentinel calm vigil kept. Nigh 2 p. I hearkened Brandon's timbre from passage, phoning, inflection casual, assured. My hold paused over keyboard. That inflection. I engaged phone's vocal archiver, held it nigh portal, seized the unilateral discourse crisply. Brandon's utterances. Yeah. Post the elder croaks. Will claim at minimum 500K, abode soul merits 520. Merely endure him out. Pause. Nah, he's obstinate now. But what air? We'll claim it anon. Kin's kin. Aye, she's his sole progeny. Chuckles, precisely. Enact long ploy. The outreach terminated. Footfalls receding. I ceased archiving, replayed. Pristine. Each utterance archived. They mooched not solely now. They awaited literally my demise, scheming legacy. The heart attack proved not awakening for them. It previewed fiscal. My holds held steady as I preserved the archive to triple locales. Phone, notebook, ether vault, proof. Not for bench this instance, for self, ratification. Sunday Eve, February 9th, 2 days pre-ultimate limit. I'd shunned Brandon and Emily chiefly, interchanging solely when compelled. But tonight, I held communique. I readied supper. Rarity nowadays. Plain rice, greens, sufficient for trio. Set board formally. When they surfaced from packing, I summoned, supper readies, seat please. Mistrust traversed their countenances. But famine prevailed. They seated. Brandon guarded. Emily unsure. We supped mute several minutes. I lowered my prong with intent precision. I hold tidings to impart. Deemed you ought discern pre-departure. Emily lifted gaze. Faint optimism in mien. I've altered my bequest. The utterance landed flatly. All consigns to philanthropy now. American Heart Association. Academy endowments. Learning faiths. You'll gain one. Emily. Precisely one to evince not forgotten. The residue, circa 500,000. Consigns to entities serving intent. I observed their visages, astonishment, insight, ire accruing. Brandon's prong clanged to dish. What you doddering old dolt? You can't enact that. His pitch ascended to bellow. I stayed seated, serene, already fulfilled, endorsed, authenticated, archived with counsel, juridically unrecallable. Emily's countenance paled. Dad, you can't. I'm your progeny. I'm your sole issue. Affirmative. And mid-heart attack. You tended once 12 minutes. You deemed my void serene. You permitted your spouse deride me, exploit my abode, impair my assets. Why bequeath you aught? Brandon surged, seat scraping aft violently. This for our tardy egress. You're that spiteful. I encountered his optics icily. It's for overhearing your phone discourse Sunday. Post the elder croaks. We'll claim at minimum 500K. Merely endure him out. You dwelt not from necessity. You awaited my demise for legacy. Well, astonishment. Naught to legacy. Hue ebbed from Brandon's countenance. He'd ensnared. Emily glimpsed 'tween us, bemused. What discourse, Brandon? What he discourses, Brandon's holds clenched. You archived me that seclusion breach. My timbre held level, nigh diagnostic. In my own abode, I may archive what I hearken. Texas one-party assent realm, the archive lawful and edifying. I arose, gathered my dish. You've parasitized. Both, subsisting off me while awaiting literally my demise. The heart attack suited you. I hastened timeline. Emily commenced weeping. But these lacrimae differed. Not mournful, wrathful lacrimae, thwarted lacrimae. You can't enact this. Codes exist. Progeny hold entitlements. Grown progeny hold no legacy entitlements in Texas. I queried counsel expressly. I may consign estate to whom I elect. I elect philanthropy. Folk needing. Entities aiding others, not exploiting. I advanced to scullery. Scoured my dish. Left in strainer. Aft me. Brandon bellowed something. Menaces. Oaths. Frantic contentions. Emily's sobs. I ascended stairs to chamber, sealed and bolted portal, perched on pallet edge in quiet. It fulfilled. All, the ouster, the bequest, the verity. They discerned all now, discerned total forfeiture. 2 more days their presence. Then quietude. My abode. My existence. My elects. Precisely as ought. Saturday morn, February 13th, limit day. I roused at 5, attired, brewed Java, perched in office, viewing sentinel feeds. The abode pandemonium, crates half-laden, furnishings askew. Brandon and Emily darting through chambers, seizing effects. They deferred to ultimate instant. At 8:30 a.m., precise, a patrol auto nosed into carport. I viewed from office casement as Dallas County bailiff, a sturdy male in garb, formal scripts in hold, neared for portal, wrapped firmly. I descended, unveiled it. Mr. Harrington, I'm Bailiff Ellis, here to enact restitution writ decreed by district court. I inclined, their inward packing still. His mind held adept. Discern they must clear today, they discern. Acceptance another query. Ellis advanced inward, summoned in commanding timbre. This Dallas County bailiff, ye required clear these premises forthwith. Ye may seize personal effects. Ye hold till 5 p.m. to fulfill removal. Post that span. Lingering items curbside. The ensuing 6 hours rained turmoil. Brandon uttered profanities while hurling garb into refuse sacks. Emily wept while enfolding crockery and newsprint. They'd leased a moving van. I spied it street-parked, yellow and azure, woefully diminutive for 5 years accrued chattels. The bailiff lingered, posted in den, overseeing. Thrice he cautioned Brandon relexicon and aggressive motions. Sir, compose or I'll docket you disorderly. This lawful ouster, comply pacifically. Brandon glowered but tempered conduct. I sequestered chiefly in office, portal unbarred, viewing clearance. They seized their furnishings, slumber ensemble, bargain media rack, forsook residue. By 4, the van crammed haphazardly. Crates and furnishings jammed sans order. Emily essayed final circuit through abode, optics crimson from weeping. She glimpsed toward office. I encountered her regard. She parted lips as discourse, sealed, pivoted away. At 5 pre-5, Brandon revved the van motor and eased from curb. Emily trailed in their compact. The bailiff toured abode with me, chronicling vacant. Endorsed fulfillment form. Holding reverts your possession. Mr. Harrington. Clasped my hold. Departed. I discerned details later. Pieced from observance and acrid outreach Emily made to cousin, overheard and relayed. No flat accepted them. No initial. Terminal. Surety amassed post-year's gratis dwelling. No attestations I'd furnish. They'd unearthed cheapest inn on Dallas fringes. Decrepit locale off thoroughfare where neon sputtered and lot harbored shady figures. 700 weekly, no pantry, no pact, remit weekly or oust. Emily's semi-spa wage, 2,000 monthly. Couldn't span. Brandon's digital venture yielded naught. Within week, their hoards, whate'er paltry sums scraped, vanished. The fiscal verity they'd evaded 5 years via my subsidy, plummeted as crumbling tower. 9 days post-ouster. My phone hummed with dispatch from unbeknown numeral, sole image, no script. I unveiled, Brandon and seeming sheriff station, perched at desk, deputy backdrop, an hour on, secondary dispatch, same numeral, deemed you desire discernment, deceit indictments, plural casualties. I probed digital tidings, unearthed succinct piece in Dallas Commerce segment, local mail indicted in digital asset ploy. Brandon's name, allegations operating inflate dump ploy, persuading backers acquire valueless ciphers, then liquidating as values cratered. 8 discerned casualties, amalgam losses or 50,000, indictments, wire deceit, asset deceit, surety at 18,000. So that's Brandon's venture, not digital asset venture, digital asset deceit. And now overtaken? I sensed no gratification. Soul chill acknowledgement. Brandon couldn't surety. 18,000 tantamount million. He benched in Dallas County lockup 6 days while Emily flailed. Outreach distant kin, imploring aid. Finally, some kin I'd unmet posted surety. Brandon freed pending tribunal, re-earned to inn with Emily. But something fractured. The unbeknown dispatches hinted contentions, amplified. Neighbors griping, tension of indigence, juridical woe, vagrancy, and repercussions. 4 weeks post Brandon's seizure, mid-March per almanac, another unbeknown dispatch, image of tribunal scripts, dissolution petition, Emily seeking marital severance, citing irreconcilable variances. The Leach Alliance crumbled internally. I preserved the image, archived with other logs, not needful, yet wholeness signified. The narrative held closure. Brandon confronting penal indictments, Emily at last severing. The innate repercussions of leech dwelling and deceitful ploys. I wrought not Brandon's seizure. Brandon's own penal conduct did. But ouster hastened all, withdrew the shielding orb of gratis shelter, bared them to stern verity they'd shunned. At times equity not what you enact, it what you cease abetting. Early March ushered what I'd unseen in 5 years. True seclusion, not desolation. Distinction signified. I roused when frame willed, not when Brandon's tread boomed overhead. Supped what craved when craved sans repast scheming round others or unearthing provisions devoured. The abode respired altered. Lighter, my heart mending persisted thrice weekly. Overseen exertion, pulse tracing, steady advance. Doctor. Reynolds voiced contentment at progress. Mr. Harrington, your advance superb. Whate'er tension it clearly absented. Your metrics narrate tale. I merely inclined. Some verities need no exposition. I initiated minor ventures, revarnishing foyer, collating garage, sowing bloom plot in foreyard, Elementary acts of dominion, of recapturing expanse. St. Patrick's Day, March 17th. I essayed ledgers at scullery board when phone hummed. Text dispatch. Emily's name. I fixed on it pre-unveiling. Dad. Remorse. We erred. May we converse. 7 utterances. 5 months void. Exploitation. Juridical phrase. Ouster distilled to 7 utterances. I lowered phone. Retort not forthwith. 4 days pondered. Labored yard. Joined mending. Readied repasts. Subsisted quiet existence. The dispatch lingered unanswered. What sought Emily accord? Fiscal aid. Reversion to prior. And what I sought? A progeny who'd forsook mid-heart attack. A progeny deeming my void serene. Yet also my progeny. My sole issue. Sole remnant tie to late spouse. March 20th. 4 days post Emily's dispatch, I perched at bureau, phone in hold, composing meticulously. Emily, I cherish you, but esteem precedes absolution. When primed to regard me paternal, not reservoir, we converse, not I reread thrice, altered not, dispatched, retort instantaneous, 3 points signaling typing, then points halted. No retort came. Spans passed. Days. Naught. I endured no letdown. Sole insight. She unprimed. Perhaps ne'er primed. Veritable shift demanded more than remorse text when existence harshened. It demanded fathoming primal errancy. Whether Emily fathomed, spans would relate or not. Either manner, my existence persisted. Late April, I spied tidings refresh. Succinct piece in Dallas Gazette Tribunal segment. Brandon ingressing culpable plea to lessened deceit indictments. Doom, 24 months supervised. Communal labor. Amends of 50,000 to discerned casualties. No lockup beyond 6 days served. I perused twice, sensed naught save closure. Brandon's penal conduct held repercussions. Casualties would recoup some redress. Brandon would expend next year and half under oversight. Discharging debt. Equity. Flawed as all mortal equity. Yet veritable. Days on, another succinct piece. Marital severance decreed. Emily Harrington's sole status. Petite efficiency flat in labor enclave. Dual employments. Full at dental clinic. Semi at spa. Forging self-path. Mastering fiscal self-rule verily entailed. The precepts I couldn't impart while she insulated from repercussions. Late April. Texas vernal. Arriving balmy dawns and efflorescing arid blooms. I perched on aft terrace at daybreak. Java mug in hold. Viewing firmament shift from mauve to aureate to cerulean. Adjacent, Mrs. Whitaker yard tended. Irrigating flora. She noted me. Beckoned. Morning, George. Splendid day. I beckoned back. Unbent. Splendid verily. My phone hummed. Dispatch from Sarah Thompson. All legacy scripts decreed and archived. You're configured. Mr. Harrington. I retailed. Gratitude for all. Sarah. Her retort. Delight. You managed all with striking restraint. Savor your serenity. I lowered phone. Eyed my yard. The bloom plot sown 3 weeks prior evinced fresh sprouts. Indigo phlox. Aureate coreopsis. Crimson penstemon. Arid flora. Robust. Flourishing in austere climes. I'd elected deliberately. Emblems of tenacity. Of endurance. Of blossoming post-adversity. My heart pulsed steadily in chest. The heart nigh halted Halloween Eve. The heart mending, all mended. I sipped Java. Pondered bygone 7 months. The Halloween assault. Clinic isolation. Juridical combats. Ouster. Brandon's seizure. Emily's quietude. All conducted hither to this terrace. This daybreak. This serenity. Folk might dub it vengeance. I dubbed it equity. Equity for self. Equity for bounds. Equity for existence. I'd ceased abetting. Commenced imposing. wielded frameworks to shield holders, to impose pacts, to apportion estates per veritable desires, not presumed duties. And now I subsisted in yields, quiet, serene, unbound, for premier in 5 years, no longer since spouse's demise 6 years back. I sensed integral, not for harming any, but for ceasing any harm to me. The Java savory, the daybreak splendid, the blooms would effloresce, existence endured ameliorated. As the sun climbed higher, casting golden light over the garden, I felt a profound sense of renewal, no longer burdened by betrayal. I embraced the quiet strength that had carried me through life, in its simple rhythms, whispered promises of new beginnings. What about you? Have you ever reclaimed your peace after a deep wound? Share your thoughts in the comments below. Let's exchange stories and insights together. Your impressions matter, and they spark our community's fire. Interact with the channel, ask questions, and let's discuss how boundaries shape our lives. To hear the next story, click the box on the left. Thank you for joining this journey.